What's up everyone, Theo here with another quick video. Now unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard that healers are having a pretty hard time in Season 2 of Dragonflight. In fact, many people in the community have been saying this is the worst time to be a healer in Mythic Plus. A quick visit to the forums, Reddit, or YouTube and you'll see tons of people talking about how much it sucks to be a healer right now. This is a bit ironic for me because at the start of the season, I gave myself two goals. The first, like every season, was to hit Keystone Hero on my main. The other was to get Keystone Master on every other healer in the game. Now I know grinding to 2k rating is not the hardest feat in the game, but as someone who doesn't get much enjoyment out of pushing keys past around level 20, this seemed like a pretty obtainable goal for me to set at the start of the season. This past week, I officially finished this goal by reaching 2k on my Paladin. To celebrate this, I wanted to take a step back and think about my experience throughout Season 2, answering this simple question: was healing in Season 2 that bad? Before I get into my own experience, let's talk about why people are saying that healing is so bad in Season 2. This really comes down to two main things. The first is balance. You've probably seen this graphic floating around showing just how unbalanced the meta is right now. With how strong paladins were after they were reworked, many healers felt pressured to reroll or risk not being invited at the highest levels. Balance, however, is far from the worst problem that healers face. The worst problem with healing right now is the type of damage that healers are expected to deal with. With the nerfs that healing saw at the beginning of Dragonflight, their relative healing has been pretty significantly nerfed. While this was manageable in Season 1, it has become a much bigger problem in Season 2. This is because rather than dealing with a consistent amount of damage that your normal healing rotation can handle, most healing is focused around a number of very specific burst moments that you need to play almost perfectly with your cooldowns or you risk wiping. The frustration, however, comes when the damage checks at these points are so high that the only way your group survives is from the use of external cooldowns. This reliance on external cooldowns is not only why the God comp was so strong, but also why healing feels so bad. Nothing feels worse as a healer than when you pop all your cooldowns and play nearly perfectly, but still end up wiping because someone didn't use their external cooldowns. Overall, healing went from something that was probably way too easy in Shadowlands, where the meta was dictated by which healers could pump out the most damage, to something that has become a little too hard in Season 2 of Dragonflight. We can see the results of this by seeing the massive number of groups that just sit around an LFG all day looking for a healer. But now, I want to talk about my own personal experience from a more casual perspective. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I have not pushed the highest keys this season. However, after pugging my way to KSM on 6 different healers, I've healed a lot of Mythic Plus in the sub-level 20 range. While certainly not as bad as it is at higher levels, I have noticed many of the complaints within the community even at this lower range. There are many parts in dungeons where I felt completely helpless in dealing with the amount of damage that's been coming out. The worst part, however, is that this is not due to any major mistakes on my part, like misusing cooldowns, but rather from either the lack of external use or just plain not doing mechanics correctly by others in the party. You can say that this is always the case when it comes to healing. Healing will always feel easier when you have a better geared group that does mechanics correctly. This is obvious. I think the issue is how much of a difference this makes and how little impact healers have in making up for the mistakes of others. Take bosses like the final bosses in Neltharian's Lair or Nelthurus. I can't count how many times I've gotten to these bosses on relatively low level keys like a plus 13 and wiped over and over again because people kept messing up the mechanics. Then, I join another group running at a higher level, say 15 or 16, that blows right through these bosses with no problem. While I was obviously happy to be able to find groups that were able to complete these dungeons, it led to an overall frustrating experience because it really hurt my sense of progression. Throughout the season, it felt like my success was tied more to the skill of my group rather than my own skill, and this overall led to a pretty frustrating experience at some times. Also, since it was my first time playing many of these classes, it really hurt my ability to tell whether I was actually getting better or just simply getting carried through these dungeons. Does this mean healing sucks? I've been a healer main for several years now, and this is definitely the worst season that I think I've ever played through since Legion. You overall just feel weak, and your success is tied more to your group's ability rather than your own individual play. However, does this mean I'm gonna stop healing, or does this mean that I would not suggest other people pick up healing? Obviously, healing is at times very, very stressful. That being said, if you're more of a casual player, these issues with healing, while very annoying, are far less prevalent in the sub 20 key range. Furthermore, with the shortage of healers, if you're looking to get invited into groups, there's no better time to switch to healing. Groups are so desperate for healers that even when I was very undergeared, I had no problem ever finding groups. Also, even though the meta is completely bonkers at higher levels, I found no problem getting invited into groups when I was playing an off-meta healer. Now, this is just my personal opinion, and it's not an attempt to diminish the voices of higher-end healers that are correctly pointing out that healing just feels bad at this moment. While you still face some issues in lower level keys, these issues are not nearly as pronounced as they are at higher levels. It certainly can still be frustrating at parts, but honestly, the high demand for healers definitely makes up for this. If you're a casual player and you only have a limited amount of time to play every week, switching to a healer may be a decent way to increase the amount of time that you actually get to play rather than just hanging out in LFG waiting for a healer. So if you're on the fence about picking up a healer for the first time, I'd recommend giving it a shot despite all the negative press that healing is getting within the community. After all, Blizzard has been pretty receptive to community feedback throughout Dragonflight. With the uproar throughout the community about the state of healing right now, I would be shocked if Season 3 did not include some major changes to help rectify the issues with healing. But that's just my 2 cents on healing in Season 2, coming from my own personal experience and a much more casual perspective. Let me know in the comments what you think. Did you heal throughout Season 2? Did you quit healing because of Season 2? What changes, if any, to healing would you want to see Blizzard make? Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like the video if you made it this far and subscribe for some more casual healing content, and I'll see you in the next video.